Welcome to Houston Sports Talk with your host, Robert Land.
Thanks for checking into the best Houston sports podcast, part of the National Bleav Network. And joining me to talk Astros is friend of the show, Brett Chancey, a.k.a. H-Town Wheelhouse over on X and co-host of the Locked On Astros podcast. Great to see you. And I got to ask you, how threatened are you and Eric by Chandler's Crush City territory pod? Are you sending the Green Goblin after Josh Reddick on this deal?
It's funny. So, I may be the victim of my own circumstance or words where I've said, there's plenty of space for everybody in the Astros podcast realm. But then when the beat writer is brought on by Foul Territory, which is a heavy hitter, look, Chandler Rome definitely brings a great perspective inside the locker room like no other. But I think the difference between what Chandler offers and what we offer is we're very much a daily podcast. So you're going to get a lot more content. You're going to get a lot more breakdowns. There's a lot of things that we think a lot alike. There's some things we have differences. So maybe it gives someone a different opinion. And what I would say is if you listen to what Chandler says, hop on over to our show, ask us a question because we interact with y'all live in the chat. That's something I don't think they offer right now. So we have a personal touch. And will Chandler create a Astros group game for y'all to hang out with the Locked On host or with this Crush City host? I haven't seen it. I'm just saying. We're your guys. We're the OGs on the block. So come hang out with us. But you know what? Go give Chandler a visit. I'm sure you won't mind.
And I think the thing about Chandler, he's kind of Mr. Cynic a lot of times on stuff. And so I know you guys could be a little bit more positive than him. And the other thing is, I just, there's more people you get in this space. I think the more people, hey, this podcast thing, I need to listen to more of this. Hey, there's all these people that are talking about the Astros, and maybe they find, some of us through the Astros stuff and through Chandler stuff. So, that's good. One of the things I wanted to ask you about to start with is this. Yeah. The story so far in the spring is Altuve. And Brett, to be brutally honest, the Altuve situation is kind of scaring me a little bit. All the things that worried us about him in left field are showing up so far with the arm and his size. And, we saw that terrible throw that he made. And I'm like, man, that was not that difficult of a throw. And they obviously want him permanently away from second base because he's not good at it anymore. He's making $33 million the next 3 years. And what makes this 10 times harder is your best hitter is a DH, which is probably where Altuve could have transitioned to. Am I being Debbie Downer here?
I don't think you are. And I think that's why, Joe Espada has said, we haven't made any solid decisions. Like there's no firm, like Altuve is playing X number of games at second. He's playing X number of games in left field. So the Astros, I think, are playing it by ear. You don't know until you know. Seems like a real cliche thing to say, but you don't know until you see Altuve in these different scenarios. I had an opportunity to talk to Craig Biggio at the TriStar show a few weeks ago, and he said, that it was tough playing in left field because he said, I didn't realize that the metal squares and the scoreboard were metal until my hand went through one of them and I almost broke my hand on a play running for a fly ball. I understand maybe there's less baseballs hit in left field, but Craig Biggio said the biggest adjustment is not just the running, but the amount of ground you have to cover. We've seen Altuve run back, make the over-the-shoulder basket catch at second. We've also seen him jump and dive and miss balls at second base. I just think we become vulnerable in the left field with, him out there. Guys may be scoring a lot from second base to home if they hit it to left field. That kind of worries me. But at the end of the day, I always go back to this. Not being a homer, not trying to be, Astros colored glasses guy. But if there is anybody on this team that can make a leap that nobody else thinks he can make, it would have to be Jose Altuve. So we know he's going to try. And honestly, Robert, we're just going to have to trust the Astros that they make the right decision. But the DH thing does not sound bad to me. It would sound even probably better if we didn't have someone like Jordan, who I think they're eventually going to slide to DH in a couple seasons. But I don't know. It was weird, though. Let me ask you this. Was there a ton of talk about his defense falling off in the media world with the team? Because I don't remember it being talked about as much until this season. Maybe I missed it totally. I just didn't realize it was a thing until it became the thing.
Yeah, I didn't hear a lot about it, but I also feel like maybe I'm listening to too many old people that are not looking at these numbers in a deeper way that some of the
True.
younger fans do. I mean, what I typically look for is errors, and I'm not looking for speed to his left or right. He's having difficulty with that. He's real bad left and right, and some of those things. So yeah, I didn't hear it, but maybe I'm not listening to the same people that were talking about it last year or something.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think Jose Altuve is probably, I don't know how much he's going to play left field. It's a mystery to me. Watching him play the first couple games, I was like, man, this just something doesn't seem right about this. He just seems to fit at second base, but that's why they brought in Brendan Rodgers. That's why they brought in Guillermo. Guillermo. That's why they have these other utility options. Dubon can play second. So it's not a total loss, but Espada did say this. I do not want him moving positions a lot. So we're going to find a primary position for him, and more than likely it's going to be left field. And I'm like, well.
Yeah. He seems to want it to happen. And
yeah,
this storyline, which has been the biggest, connects me to the second storyline in a way. And you're going to wonder at first, like, what are you talking about? Well, I'm talking about Bam Cam Smith, who's killing it in spring training. This is the dilemma I want to pose to you. What makes more sense for the Astros' future? Leaving Cam at third base, the position he's always played through his life, which probably makes him defensively ready quicker for the Astros and allows you to move Paredes to second base, improving that positions drastically as if Altuve is going to be playing left, or throw in a whole new position at Cam, like right field, slowing his progress because you're trying to improve the offense at a position in right field, which is much easier to find offensive talent than third base or second base. What do you believe here?
I believe that if Cam Smith, I see him coming up, starting in AA, getting maybe 12, 15 games. If he rakes, they move him up pretty quickly. He gets about 2 weeks at AAA. If he's doing well, maybe 12, 15 games. Maybe that's not 2 weeks. Maybe that's 3 weeks. And bring him up. Bring him up in June. If you bring him up in June and Chaz is not faltering, and let's just say Chaz is back to 2022 Chaz. He's hitting the ball. He's hitting opposite field home runs. He's doing well. You bring Cam Smith into third base. If the right field position is a problem, you can always put him in right field until maybe Paredes is not there and then slide him over to third base. But I think it makes sense to bring him up, put him at third, move Paredes at second, Altuve's in left. That is, I think, if you have a Chaz that is above and beyond better what he was this last season. Because if he's Chaz from last year, I'm sorry, he's expendable. And you put Cam in right field because his bat needs to be here. His glove does play better defensively at third, but he's athletic. He's big. He's strong. That right field wall is short. We've seen Kyle Tucker rob home runs. Cam Smith's going to steal some joy from opposing hitters if he's playing right field.
They almost have to do what they're going to do, though, immediately, because, you got to figure out which position he's going to play in the minors. We forget he's barely played in the minors, period. Not even at third base.
Exactly. So if you look at his stats, I think it was 15 games, 12 games, 15 games. And so that's why I'm sticking with 12 and 15. That seems to be its magic number. Then he's just blown through those. Now, it was his first season. And this is what I like about him, though. At Florida State, he was not known for the home run ball. And what does he do in his first stint, his first 12 games in single A ball? He hits the 6 home runs, 6 games in a row, right? Then he comes up here in spring training. What's he do? He almost hit a grand slam the other day. He hit 2 home runs, his first 2 hits of the spring training. His first 2 at bats, he takes 2 walks. He's got an eye for the ball. He's playing third. He's hitting opposite field home runs. He's hitting bases loaded triples, which should have been a home run. What he's doing, Robert, is just astounding. Now, that's when you got to pump the brakes. It is spring training. And I'm not saying Justin Dearden is Cam Smith or Cam Smith is Justin Dearden, but remember when Justin Dearden hit the scene and he was hitting the cover off the ball, right? So spring training, you have to take things with a grain of salt. But every time he's gone up a level with a small sample size, he's performed well. And when Dana Brown says he's a franchise cornerstone guy, I think he's a franchise cornerstone guy. And I was at that town hall meeting when he called him an aircraft carrier. He said it twice. And he said, this is a kid that's going to get you 30 home runs, multiple seasons, going to be one of the top big league players in the league. They are looking at him. I think the crown or the torch goes from Altuve to Cam Smith.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. Third storyline we're keeping an eye on is old Lance McCullers. From a scale of 1 to 10, how much are you falling for Lance McCullers is back hype? Is this like your uncle asking you, hey, do you want to play 52 card pickup? Do you know how to do that?
I completely forgot about that game. That is a throwback. The way Lance is going right now, the way he's progressing and the things he's saying, the things he's doing, he is trending in the direction he was in 2021. So I think as long as he stays on that trek, he doesn't have any setbacks. He probably gets 2 or 3 really solid starts in AAA and they evaluate where he is and they bring him up. If they bring him up, he's going to be a starter. He's not going to be a relief guy. I was on the big Lance McCullers as a relief pitcher train, but he's made a good argument for not doing that because he said it's a different ball of wax. Those guys go out multiple days, and with Lance McCullers, you need the rest in between days. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to say right now I'm at an 8, but that can move quickly down 2 spots to a 6 or 3 spots to a 5. It all depends. Literally, this is like someone watching stocks. Like, is it going to go up? Well, it performed really well last week, but how's it going to perform this week? And that's unfortunately where we are. I think this guy, though, is the bury me in the H guy. He's dedicated to Houston. He's a Houston guy. And I've probably not said the most nice things about him and the barista thing I kind of joke about, but I'm rooting for Lance. I'm at an 8 right now, but I can be swayed higher or lower depending on how he performs and his health holds up.
Yeah, I always say don't hate Lance. Hate his screwed up arm. That's what you can
right.
hate.
Good call.
Well, we got to talk spring training standouts in a few secs, but before we roll on, I just want to remind our listeners and fans, what do you guys think? Let us know what you think about these different situations and what's coming up later. And let me know in the YouTube comments, if you're liking the content, and I'd love to hear from everybody. And Sunday I talked with Rockets analyst Red Nation Blogger. Go check that one out. And my conversation with St. Louis Cardinals insider Matt Pauley that I had last week on the latest with the potential Astro Nolan Arenado deal. And, that's obviously on the back burner right now, but you never know when that's going to pop up again. So go check that out on Arenado. And you can support us, of course, and get updates on our content by subscribing on YouTube. Give us a thumbs up and listen in your car or while you're out and about with your favorite podcast app. All right, Brett, which of the Astros' young starting pitchers has impressed you most so far?
I really like Colton Gordon because his first outing, 4 runs, 3 earned, 1 walk, 1 K, 1 1/3 innings pitched. His second outing, 2 innings pitched, 1 hit, no runs, no walks, 3 strikeouts. I like Colton Gordon. I like what he's given us starting pitching wise. Your other guys, AJ Blueball has been a mixed bag of goods. While he's recorded 6 strikeouts and 3 1/3 inning, he's also given up 7 runs. It's a little bit of spring training, but hopefully that improves. Ryan Gusto, who I like, 4 strikeouts, 4 innings, only 1 run, only 2 hits, and only 1 walk. Gusto, we know his major league debut was canceled because the last game of the season was canceled against the Cleveland Guardians. So he didn't get to show his stuff in the big show. But when I look at other starting pitchers, I don't really see a lot of guys on the starting end. Now, Logan Van Wy, who was a starter last year for the Space Cowboys, went 9-1. I think he's going to be one of your top bullpen arms. This guy has had 3 outings, 4 strikeouts in 4 2/3 innings, no runs, and only 4 hits and only 1 walk. So if you say young starters, I'm going to throw Van Wy in there because he has been a starter. I think he's up for a bullpen spot, to be honest. Maybe he comes in as a piggyback guy. Maybe they use him as a piggyback guy whenever Lance comes in. Maybe they want to shorten his starts when he gets up. They don't want him going 5 full innings, or they don't want him go 6 innings. So you bring in Van Wy after Lance McCullers Jr. Might not be a bad system to create, because we know the Astros are all about piggybacks and, being creative.
All right. So now I'm going to ask you about the relievers. Which reliever, and you've sort of taken out Van Wy, which reliever has impressed you the most so far? Is Forrest Whitley the gimme here?
Forrest Whitley definitely gets a mention. I think you have to look at Forrest Whitley, Luis Contreras, and an unknown, Blake Wyman. I keep wanting to call him Weidman. Blake Wyman had 5 strikeouts the other day in 2 innings, has 6 strikeouts over 3 innings, and just looks phenomenal. Luis Contreras, 3 innings pitched, 1 hit, 4 strikeouts. Forrest Whitley has come out and just done well. 2 innings pitched, 2 strikeouts, no hits. He pitched a perfect inning his last outing. You've got what I thought was going to be a thin bullpen, one that seems to be pretty meaty. Of course, some of these guys are unseasoned. These guys don't have the experience, so they're going against Major League pitching. So we'll see how their stuff plays out over the season. But I think those are the ones that I've really been most impressed with. I still want to see more out of Miguel Castro. I'm looking forward to him making a move. Taylor Scott has been excellent. Yola has been good. I'm trying to think. Okert has been really good. Montero, 1 inning pitched, 1 walk, and 2 strikeouts. There's 11 million reasons why Montero makes this roster or makes a move to get onto this roster. I know he's not the young relief pitcher, but he is a guy that they have a lot invested in. So those guys that I mentioned, Whitley, Wyman, Contreras, I don't know if Contreras qualifies as a young relief pitcher, but those are the guys that I think are really that you're going to be looking to contributing this year.
All right. Now, which non-pitcher besides Cam Smith, who's the obvious choice here, but which non-pitcher has raised an eyebrow for H-Town wheelhouse? Any surprises here?
Well, I think Shea Whitcomb. This guy goes into a game for Alex Bregman, makes like 3 or 4 errors in a single game at Minute Maid. Automatically, people jump off. Oh, Shea Whitcomb's terrible. He's horrible. His glove's awful. He's the worst fielder ever. Shea Whitcomb can hit. Shea Whitcomb can play baseball. Shea Whitcomb is has a very high upside, I think, both defensively and offensively. Now, I'm not saying he's a perennial Hall of Famer. I'm not saying he's a perennial All-Star every year. But he's a guy that doesn't have a ton of expectations, but can come onto a veteran team with veteran players and elevate his game, and he has pop in his bat. So I think he started out, again, small sample size, but he started out camp really, really good. He looks good. I mean, we can talk about Cam Smith and the other guys, but Shea Whitcomb's the guy. I think DeCenzo's going to contribute, but I think Shea Whitcomb might be that guy who we, in a couple months, go, wow, man, Whitcomb's really contributed, really been big for this team.
Yeah, and I'm going to maybe find a place for him on the team in a second. I'm going to circle back to that one. But my next question is there anybody that you're legit worried about this early in the spring?
I hate to be a Debbie Downer when it comes to Jake Myers, because I remember interviewing him a month before he was called up by the Astros when he was playing for the Skeeters, the old AAA team for the Astros, when they just came over. And I was just impressed with his candor. I was impressed with the way he talked about the game, how much of a student of the game he is. And, he was hitting the cover off the ball. He had 16, 17 home runs when they called him up. He was lighting it up. He was surprising a lot of people. Darren Erstad was his coach at Nebraska, so he's got good baseball pedigree. His dad was a minor leaguer. But I just don't know. Like I love his glove, but he has no arm. I mean, yeah, he's gotten a couple RBI singles, and I'm all for Jake the Rake. I'm all for Jake at Rake Farms, whatever whatever coin phrase you want to use, the bottom line is Jake's got to show up. Jake has more to prove with his bat than anybody on this team. I'm feeling that if somebody else comes along and gets hot in the minor leagues, that he may be more expendable than others. The only linchpin in him being expendable is Jose Altuve has talked about how important it is to have him in center field when he's out there in left field. So you're hamstrung with Jake if he's not performing, but that's the guy that I've wanted to turn it around. That shoulder injury really took his career in a different direction. I can't imagine having to overcome that.
Yeah, and I'm gonna point out, I've said it before, his minor league numbers were never that impressive offensively. He had one good year in Sugarland, and that was, in Sugarland's the teams you play, that's the offensive league outside of Sugarland itself, so outside of that ballpark. So the next one I got for you, you talk center field. Let's move over to right field for a second. What are the odds Chas McCormick and Ben Gamel are just a straight up platoon in right field, lefty righty?
I think that makes sense. I mean, Ben Gamel came back for a reason. Ben Gamel was re-signed, I think, because of what the team knows that they have in him. It was funny. I was sitting there again, same town hall meeting where Dana Brown goes, "Oh, by the way, we just signed Ben Gamel." I tweeted it out there and everybody's like, "Well, what's your source?" I'm like, literally the GM is my source. Like, this isn't like some insider. He literally said it. I was like, that's what we need. We need this guy to come back, because I think Ben, like you said, offers a left-handed bat. He offers experience in the outfield. And if Chas isn't cutting it, then you have these guys that can play both sides of the plate at bat. You can do the matchup thing with them. And
it's about an 800 OPS. If you look at Chas's career numbers and Gamel's career numbers, it's close to that if you do the straight up platoon.
Exactly. And so it's like in Moneyball. It's like, but what does he do? He gets on base, right? I mean, that's, if that position gets on base more and produces more offense in a platoon situation, you absolutely, Ben Gamel and Chas McCormick become a better player instantly, because like you said, they're kind of playing both sides of the plate. I like that idea. I hadn't actually thought about that, but that to me makes complete sense.
Another candidate could have been Taylor Trammell. He just hadn't been healthy, so I don't know where he's at right now, and as far as if he's going to be ready by the beginning of the season or whatever. Next question. Considering Jon Singleton only plays first base and would be primarily a pinch hitter who cannot play the field once he pinch hits late in games, because where is he going to play? He's not playing ahead of your, Gold Glove first baseman. He's not pinch hitting for your Gold Glove first baseman. So should he get a roster spot over somebody like DeCenzo, the aforementioned Shea Whitcomb, or, what do you do there? Who those guys project as better hitters, even though the Astros are light on lefties?
I think we almost have to do away with this. Well, but he's a left-hander line because of the case that you made. And look, great story. Dude comes back. Love the story of how he came back, how he fought adversity. I was at the game when he hit his first couple tanks in an Astros uniform. That was exciting to see. But you're right. I think the roster situation that the Astros were in, signing Christian Walker pretty much doomed Singleton's future at first base with the Astros, because he's not going to play that much longer. But do the Astros value his bat on the bench as a lefty more than they value a Guillorme, or more than they value Ben Gamel? And again, I don't think they do. And if he's on this team, there's got to be some strategic baseball analytical way of looking at that. But I think he may not make this squad. He may not make it really out of spring training on the opening day roster, but because of who they have on the team. So I guess only time will tell. I don't know exactly how Dana Brown thinks, but if I did, I would definitely let you know.
He could be their weight training guy. I don't know. Maybe that's his future.
Oh, dude, he's yoked, man. He came into, I was like, what are you doing this offseason, man? He is absolutely yoked, but he's still swinging and missing. So
yeah, it doesn't change his hand-eye coordination at all.
No.
Last thing I got for you, your favorite story or storyline in spring training so far that we have not discussed?
I think it is how Joe Espada is going about handling all the moving parts. You know, you lose Presley, you lose Tucker, you lose Bregman, your future Hall of Fame second baseman or / left fielders move into left field. You've got Forrest Whitley, who was the cat's meow when he was drafted, and finally it seemed like he's getting over that hump. What is Joe Espada going to do this year to separate himself from the other coaches, from a Bruce Bochy? We know what Bruce Bochy does. He wins a title, he loses, he wins a title. That's kind of his. And so we know Bruce Bochy's charging hard. How is Joe Espada going to manage this team? And I think he's handled it well. He's been very praise oriented with his players, but he's been very real. It's like, I like Fromber's performance, but I didn't like the way he didn't cover first base. So he's very straightforward with his guys, because if the manager can manage this aspect of the game, the personalities and being in different places with new players, with new faces, you can alleviate any tensions on the field that would create players have mental blocks, go through slumps, make errors on the field. I think the mental side of it, him and Perez Chica, our new third base coach, I think is going to play a role with the infielders and with Jeremy Pena, very similar to what Brent Strom played with the pitchers. I think he's going to have that kind of a change. He's going to be that kind of a change agent. The Diamondbacks were number 1 in defense last year. There's no reason why the Astros can't move from 12 to a top 10 spot this year. And if they do that, that's only going to bode well for the W column for the Astros in 2025.
And you got to give Dana Brown credit, because he certainly had a plan for the offseason. He said, this is where we got to get better. We got to get better in defense. He brings in a Gold Glove first baseman. First base was terrible last year, and defensively, and you know, you missed Yuli. You never took Yuli for granted, but let me tell you, it's been ugly the last couple of years without Yuli at first base. At second base, Altuve was bad, so we're gonna, you know, go with Dubon or Brendan Rodgers, a former Gold Glover, potentially at second base. You know, and then you bring in, like you said, Perez Chica there. Also, he's like, we're not seeing enough pitches. That's a problem. We're not seeing enough pitches. So he brings in the guy that saw the most pitches in the major leagues, and Paredes, the guy that saw the 11th most pitches in the major leagues, and Christian Walker. And maybe that changes, you know, what's going to happen. And also, I know they're not going to play Yainer Diaz quite as much. He DH'd a lot last year when he wasn't catching. I don't think that's going to happen as much this season, because they need Yordan and Altuve to DH. So what I think that means is we're going to see less of Yainer Diaz chasing stuff in the lineup. And Caratini, when he catches, you won't have, you know, near as many chase guys as you used to. Altuve is really, I think, the big chase guy, and hopefully nobody else is a problem there. Jake Myers, you know, has his problems, but I don't know if he's that much of a chase guy. So like that and a guy that's, you know, getting out in the first couple of pitches. So that, I think, you know, Dana, that's really what's impressed me, is he had a plan, and he really did some things there.
No, yeah, definitely. And definitely credit, you know, belongs to Dana. We still have people on our show daily that credit, like, oh, Dana's terrible, he's like the worst GM. And I'm like, I don't even know what team that you're watching. Just because we didn't sign $800 billion in contracts and players from Japan and do what the Dodgers did doesn't mean that he didn't do a good job. I mean, I would have loved for him to be able to get a Jurickson Profar, to get a Tasker Hernandez, but maybe they actually weren't going for them because they knew the whole time Altuve was going to left field. And maybe the grand scheme was to get Cam Smith to third base and Paredes to second. Maybe this is the plan. And so that's why we have to sit back and, as Astros fans, enjoy, because I don't think the winning is over, Robert. I'm not saying this team's going to win a World Series, but if you get into the playoffs, you have a chance. Just ask the Braves in 21 against us, and ask the Nationals in 19 against us. Who had the Diamondbacks and the Rangers in the World Series in 23, right? I mean, so that's why we play the games. That's why we play the whole season of 162 games, and we go to the playoffs. And like Mike Stanton tells me all the time, as long as you make it, you have a chance.
People just keep criticizing the Astros GMs, and all they do is make the playoffs every year. And it's not because they're just bringing back the same guys every year, because you guys You're witnessing it. You talk about it all the time. We lost this guy, and then we lost this guy, and then we lost this guy. And guess what? James Click, losing guys, wins a championship. Guess what? We're losing guys, and Dana Brown was in the playoffs the last couple of years because the little moves that he made at the margin, just like moves that and guys, it's so much easier. It's so much easier to be a GM when you've got no expectations coming in. You get a bunch of high first round picks because your owner signs off on it, and you get an unlimited budget once things start. You have a ton of money to spend once all that stuff starts. And, James Click and Dana Brown are basically trying to be GM with a couple of handcuffs tied to the wrist. So, yeah, that's a big part of it. He's H-Town Wheelhouse on X. Locked On Astros is the YouTube channel. Anything you want to plug?
Make sure you check out our channel, subscribe to our channel. Robert, thank you so much. And if any of our fans migrate over here, you do not watch this channel without subscribing, without sharing with your friends. Robert does a great job, not just with the Astros, but Rockets, Texans, anything in between here. He is a seasoned veteran, what we would call a grizzled veteran in the business. But, man, check out Locked On Astros. Also, check out Back to the Bullpen with Mike Stanton. We just fired up our first spring training episode last week. We're going to be doing more and more content this year. We're going to also be talking about not just the Astros, but around the league, some really hot stories, the Otanis, the Sotos, the DeGroms, guys like that. And can Mike Trout stay healthy this year? I know the Angels sure hope so. But yeah, man, just check me out. You find me on social media, hit me up, follow me, see me in person, give me a high five. Let's cheer on the Astros together. And let's try to spoil the Dodgers fun and beat LA again. I mean, why not? I mean, might as well shoot for the moon, right?
Absolutely, man. Thanks for the kudos, and always appreciate talking with you. And it's great doing this. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you, Robert. You have a good one. Continued success, sir.
You're listening to Houston Sports Talk.
Hey, don't forget to support us by subscribing and commenting on YouTube. You can always listen to us on Spotify, Apple, or your favorite podcast app. Tell your friends about us and share our show links on social media. Spread the word, everybody. Thanks for listening.